Mars has always been a subject of exploration for humans. The bright red color of this red sphere used to scare us, but its mysterious appearance inspired us to uncover the secrets buried within it. That's why we've had our eyes set on Mars for many centuries. Mars has also given us many moments in the past when we experienced both wonder and curiosity at the same time. Today, humans see Mars as their future. Life, which is fighting for its existence on Earth, sees its next home on Mars. In such a situation, it is very important to know how humans will actually settle on Mars. After all, how will we humans populate this barren land and establish our settlements here? Well, to get familiar with the futuristic concepts of terraforming and colonization, stay with us till the very end of this video. Mars, which is the destination of our dreams today, is going to become the reality of tomorrow. So, why not take a closer look at this barren Mars today? This planet, located about 140 million miles from Earth, is the fourth planet from the Sun. It is a transitional planet because after this, the gas planets begin. Mars is a solid planet and its surface is mostly made up of iron, nickel, and sulfur. That's why its color is deep red, although its surface temperature is quite low despite its red color. Its atmosphere is less than 1% as dense, and that's why you don't feel any air pressure on the surface here. The atmosphere of Mars is composed mostly of 95.3% carbon dioxide, 2.6% nitrogen, and the remaining 0.1% consists of gases like oxygen and argon. As far as the presence of water on Mars is concerned, scientists are still uncertain about this. Of course, we have not yet been able to find liquid water on the surface of this planet, but that does not mean that there is no water on Mars. For the past several decades, our research on Mars has proven that Mars could actually be a potential candidate to host life. At one time, all those conditions must have existed here, which would have provided a favorable environment for life to flourish, whether it was the flowing water on its surface or the oxygen present in the air here. The form of life that we see on Earth today might have existed on Mars at one time as well. All those conditions, all those factors that provide a favorable environment for life to thrive. Maybe in the past, they already existed on Mars, but over time, something changed here. Something that completely destroyed the biological system of this planet. It wiped out the living beings from here and dried up the flowing rivers on the surface, turning them into barren valleys. Scientists believe that we can once again make the atmosphere of Mars habitable, bringing back the life that once perished here. We can revive it once again, but to do so, we will have to go through a long and extensive process. In this process, from increasing the temperature on Mars to rebuilding its atmosphere, all major changes will have to be brought about artificially. Of course, this will not be easy for us at all. To do this, we will need an enormous amount of money, resources, and technology, and maybe even more than that. We will need a visionary person who is interested in making this dream come true, and maybe that person already exists. Yes, we are talking about SpaceX founder Elon Musk, who has made a plan to relocate humans from Earth to Mars. Of course, Musk is not alone in this race. Many other players are also working day and night to reach this milestone. But Musk and his SpaceX are far ahead of all of them in this race. SpaceX has practical plans to reach Mars. They have the resources needed to send humans to Mars. Along with that, SpaceX has a complete plan to settle people there before we come to SpaceX's Martian colonization and terraforming plan. Let's take a look at some important details of this trip. The shortest distance between Earth and Mars is 33.9 million miles. Both Earth and Mars revolve around the Sun in an elliptical orbit, which causes the distance between them to decrease and increase. Every 2.5 years, these two planets reach their closest point to each other. At such a time, it's a golden opportunity to send any spacecraft to Mars. This launch window of 3 to 8 days gives us convenient access to Mars. Spacecraft launched during this period reach Mars's orbit using the least amount of time and fuel. This journey takes about 8 months. During this time, after leaving Earth's orbit, the spacecraft will have to travel in deep space for the next 250 days. Then, one day, the view of the red planet will appear from the window of that rocket, and in the next 1.5 hours, this mission will go through its toughest phase. This is the landing sequence, SpaceX's Starship will make a vertical landing in this manner, and from here, the battle for survival begins. Actually, this fleet of Starship will carry a team of the first Martian settlers. These will be the first humans who will dedicate their lives to making Mars habitable for humans. It's possible that their journey to Mars will be one way. That means they may never be able to return to Earth, or they might get a chance to come back after many years. Well, whatever their fate may be, they will be fully prepared to face the challenges that await them here. In this process, they will first have to set up a base unit. This is the first step in Martian colonization. As part of this, shelters will be built here where these Martian settlers will be able to live. And here, there will also be labs for all kinds of scientific experiments and research. Along with this, these special shelters will also have some unique greenhouses where farming will be done. Yes, this human civilization going to settle on Mars will have to become completely self-reliant. First, arranging their own food and then managing water for their daily needs. All of this will have to be done by these Martian settlers themselves. Of course, they will keep getting food and water supplies from Earth for the first few years, but once all these things are arranged there, these supplies will also be stopped. Scientists have already created such green chambers, where heat, light, and water are all controlled and managed. As a result of this experiment, scientists found very well-grown vegetables. They have grown many crops like potatoes, tomatoes, carrots, wheat, and grass, and those crops have grown very well, so the food situation is now sorted. As for farming on Mars, the inspiration to accomplish this comes from the famous Hollywood movie The Martian. One of the characters, Mark Watney, made fertilizer from his own waste on Mars. Now, since Martian soil contains all the elements needed to grow crops on Mars except for nitrogen, but here is the good news, and that is human waste, that is poop, contains a lot of nitrogen. If we somehow kill the pathogens in the human waste, which is possible by exposing it to Mars's freezing temperatures, then we would actually have a way to make organic fertilizer. And as far as arranging water here is concerned, that method is also very simple. Actually, the oxygen and hydrogen that we've been using as jet fuel until now will now help us make water. How? Again, here we will use simple chemistry. We know that when both hydrogen and oxygen gases are infused together, as a result, we get water. So in this way, we will arrange water in the initial phase. But when we have to do this on a large scale, where will we get so much oxygen and hydrogen gas from? Don't worry, we have a solution for this doubt as well. In that case, we will reach out to the polar regions of Mars. There, these frozen ice caps will be melted and liquid water will be extracted from them. By the time we reach this stage of Martian habitation, we will have developed so much that we will be completely ready to launch our mega projects here. Yes, we are talking about terraforming, a mission in which Mars will be artificially heated up. This will start increasing the global temperature of Mars, and all those changes will begin to happen here, which in the future will help to germinate the seeds of life on the barren surface of Mars. In this sequence, a massive mission will be carried out on Mars. As part of it, huge glass panels will be deployed here. These huge glass panels will reflect the sunlight towards the atmosphere of Mars, trapping the heat within Mars itself. During this time, the carbon dioxide gas present on Mars will accelerate this process even further. At the same time, work will also be going on with the atmosphere of Mars. According to our knowledge, several million years ago, when Mars lost its magnetosphere, it destroyed its atmosphere in a single blow. Today, the atmosphere of Mars is extremely thin and light. This is the reason why it is not effective in retaining the heat it receives from the sun. But when this atmosphere is completely healed, we will be able to clearly observe this phenomenon there. By the time we reach this stage, our Martian colony will have developed quite a lot. By now, we humans will have established our own permanent settlements all over Mars. During this time, the first group of Martian settlers will either have died or, having grown very old, will have returned to Earth. For now, here, the second and third generations will be working. By the time we reach this point, almost all the changes we had envisioned when we started our work here on Mars will have already taken place. As far as terraforming is concerned, it is possible that this process will continue in the same way for the next few years. After heating up Mars, healing battling its environment, and even initiating an active water cycle on Mars, the circulation of oxygen will also have begun in its suffocating atmosphere, which will give rise to an environment quite similar to that of Earth. However, this is an extremely long and complex process, and it may still take several decades for it to become a reality. Until then, humans will have to live on Mars just as they did on their first day there. That means they still won't be able to roam freely on the surface of Mars. They will have to wear pressurized suits, and for oxygen, we will still have to rely on our artificial systems. But by that time, all of this will be left behind because the rapid changes happening on Mars will bring a revolution there, and life will become similar to what it is here on Earth. The prosperous and peaceful life that we see flourishing here on Earth today, it once migrated here from Mars in the past. And over time, due to the changes that came, we lost the memories of our past, and life here started from the very beginning. For many centuries, ever since humans became aware of space and other planets, scientists have been researching these subjects. In such a situation, these are not just a few simple questions, but rather much more complex and difficult matters of research. Look, we all know that science is what helps us understand the reasons behind any event and the effects that result from it. Holding onto the same fabric of science, just a few decades ago, Sir Isaac Newton presented the theory of gravity to the world. Copernicus broke people's misconceptions and made it clear that the Earth is not flat but round, and it is not the center of the universe, but rather it is itself a planet, which revolves around the sun. Later, Galileo observed space through his own telescope and found that, along with the Earth, there are several other planets revolving around the sun. We were already aware of the existence of these planets, but this time we were able to see them with our own eyes. By the 20th century, humans' desire to know the world beyond the clouds became even stronger, and we started talking about topics beyond stars and planets like aliens and exoplanets. Of course, all this was quite strange and new at that time. No one really understood much about it, and how could they? After all, these things were just the result of some imaginations and human minds in that era. But today, when we have this modern technology available, today, when we know very well that in this infinite universe, apparently, life cannot be limited to just Earth. In any case, life could exist on many other planets and moons besides Earth. In such a situation, our eyes often turn toward Mars, the fourth planet of the solar system. After all, besides Mars, which other planet in the solar system can provide a favorable or even challenging environment for life to breathe? But today, we are going to give you a completely different perspective on how to look at Martian life. Because today, we will explore the possibility that points to the fact that the life you see on Earth today might actually have been displaced from Mars a long time ago in the past and arrived here on Earth. Whenever it comes to the possibility of life beyond Earth, our eyes always turn towards Mars, the fourth planet of the solar system, which appears bright red with an atmosphere that is extremely cold and freezing. Can it prove to be helpful in sustaining life? The search for the answer to this question has compelled scientists to look deep inside this planet over the past 5 decades. We have carried out countless missions to Mars so far. Through these, we have continued to search for possibilities related to its history and future. Back then, our solar system was witnessing many changes. On one hand, Mars lost its atmosphere and saw all the water there disappear. On the other hand, certain coincidences occurred on Earth that led to the beginning of suitable conditions for the creation of life here. This was a very strange era where on one hand, life was standing at the brink of extinction, while on the other hand, on another planet, life was on the verge of being born. Thanks to the research conducted on Mars over the past 5 decades, we have now reached the conclusion that millions of years ago, life definitely existed on the surface of Mars. Like present-day Earth, Mars once had flowing rivers and received sunlight, making it similar to Earth. They could shield Mars from the sun's harmful UV rays. Also, there was an active greenhouse effect on Mars, which allowed the surface of Mars to retain heat on its own. At that time, the average temperature of Mars was between 12 to 13 degrees Celsius, but in history, this was a reality. Our studies and research so far make it clear that something did happen in the past. Something that destroyed life on Mars forever. This explains the end of life on Mars. There are many theories, but the most logical one is the solar photons infiltration theory. According to this, about 4 billion years ago, when the solar system was only a few hundred million years old, then, suddenly one day, a storm of deadly radiation and UV photon particles erupted from the sun. It was a terrifying solar storm that scorched everything in its path. When these charged particles of plasma from the sun collided with Mars's outer layer, that is, its atmosphere, they penetrated deep inside. After that, the atmosphere was severely damaged. The atmosphere of Mars became completely filled with holes, which caused a sudden change in the atmospheric dynamics of Mars. Pressure started releasing from the surface and escaping into space, which led to an immense change in the temperature of the entire planet. Eventually, the result of this event was that all the heat and liquid water on the surface of Mars was destroyed. Meanwhile, there is also a strong possibility that water-based organisms might have died at that very moment. According to our understanding, life must have first originated in the rivers and lakes that flowed on ancient Mars. Just like about 3.7 billion years ago, the earliest life forms originated here on Earth. If we look at the timeline of the existence of life on Mars and Earth side by side, we will find that, in fact, the origin of life on Earth happened when life on Mars was almost on the verge of extinction. Coincidentally, or due to some specific reason, but the time of birth and extinction of life on both these planets is almost the same. The sequential occurrence of these two events in an order cannot be just a coincidence. When scientists kept this thought in mind and continued their research, they studied Mars. With the help of the Curiosity rover stationed on the surface, they found organic molecules in a 3 billion year old rock, which was a sedimentary rock. Even before this, Curiosity had detected traces of methane on Mars. Scientists have turned the suspicion of the existence of life on Mars into certainty. Especially Gale Crater on Mars is the place where continuous evidence of ancient life and rivers and lakes that once flowed on Mars has been found. When Curiosity and other Mars rovers studied these soil samples, many revelations came to light. From this, scientists found out that these organic compounds present in Martian soil included thiophene, benzene, toluene, and some short carbon chains like propene and butene. Additionally, it is also noteworthy that the places where these organic compounds were found also have the presence of sulfur in the soil nearby, which indicates that millions of years ago there might have been cellular organisms living here, which could explain this presence. They migrated from there to Earth, and from them our own origin, that is, the origin of humans, also took place. This somewhat matches the story that we told you at the beginning of this video. It sounds quite strange and shocking to hear that microbial life forms traveled from Mars and reached Earth. I mean, how is that even possible? Traveling from Mars to Earth, covering immense space distances to reach its new home, is extremely challenging. We have several hypotheses to explain this, which according to some of these, a divine messenger named Anunnaki came here to Earth from Mars. He gave birth to his own offspring, who later emerged as humans and spread out. They claimed the entire Earth as their own. And in this way, the meteorites coming from Mars to Earth also contained microbial forms of life along with water and other minerals. Meteorites that entered Earth's atmosphere and landed here merged with the soil within a few hundred years. They triggered the start of life on Earth as the right environment formed by chance. life flourished and we got to see this form of Earth. Well, all these mysteries can be solved by our neighboring planet Mars, and we are about to take you on a journey there. Meanwhile, we will find out what exactly happened in the past that suddenly wiped out life from this lush green planet. And what really happened to the creatures that used to live on Mars? Did they also perish and turn to dust in the catastrophe that struck Mars? Or is the life we see on Earth today actually the legacy of those Martians? To find answers to all these questions and to learn about the changing seasons on Mars, be sure to watch this documentary till the end. Before we get to Mars and the evidence of ancient life there, let's talk a bit about this vastness. Meanwhile, under certain special conditions, this life also travels from one place to another. We will discuss the possibility of life being transferred from Mars to Earth later. So, for now, the important issue for us is about the formation of Mars and the origin of life there. In this entire sequence of events, the Orion Nebula at the center of the Milky Way galaxy gave birth to a star. This star was quite large and very hot. Because it was in its early stage, it went through many internal and external changes, and due to those changes, our planets were formed. Now obviously, since our planets were formed from this blazing ball of fire, they must have been very hot as well. In such a situation, they also kept smoldering for many hundreds of thousands of years due to the gases and heat emitted from the sun. But as time passed, the fire inside them was extinguished. The hydrogen and helium present in them, being lighter, rose up, and gases like nitrogen and oxygen settled on the surface. Although this development of the solar system happened in two different phases, one of these phases was the formation of rocky planets made of solid rocks, while the planets that had moved far away from the sun were made entirely of gases. Among this family of 8 planets, there was Mars, where according to this theory, life first originated. Yes, life existed on Mars even before Earth. Mars was the planet that had cooled down after shedding the heat it received from the sun. There, the temperature was just right for the origin of life. In such conditions, the factors that support life first emerged there. Today, in search of those very factors, we are exploring the entire planet Mars. Yes, we are talking about Martian water, which 200 million years ago existed on the surface of Mars in the form of lakes, oceans, and rivers. Life first began in these oceans filled with liquid water. And now, as this bacterial life grows through different biological variations, it takes the form of an advanced civilization just like us humans. Scientists believe that life on Mars must have also developed in a similar step-by-step manner. There too, these organisms must have come out of the water and reached the dry lands first. And then, with the passage of time, they might have evolved into highly intelligent and sensible beings similar to humans. This system of Mars makes it similar to the present-day Earth. Now life reaches the stage of flourishing and developing there, after which the journey of life on Mars begins. Here too, just like on our Earth, other forms of life flourish. This idea had never been this exciting, nor had it ever gone through so many stages. The end of this story had come much before we could even imagine. Actually, when this microbial form of life was developing in the water bodies on Mars, something suddenly happened that completely wiped out life from the planet. Actually, that incident was the collision of an asteroid with Mars, which destroyed the life that was developing on Mars. According to this hypothesis, it is almost impossible to even detect something coming at such a high speed. The collision was so intense that it created a huge crater in an area as large as the United States. A lot of material present on the surface of Mars, ranging from fine dust particles to massive rocks, shattered and was scattered everywhere. A cloud of dust rose up into the sky. Under its influence, all the life-supporting factors that had emerged began to slowly die out. And now this story fast forwards to our present day. Today, Mars is a lifeless and barren planet. Here, there is neither air to breathe nor water to quench thirst and no sign of life. A massive asteroid collided with this burning Earth, splitting this sphere into two pieces. We live on the larger piece today, and we call the smaller piece the Moon. While on one hand, this collision destroyed life on Mars, it was about to turn Earth into a lush, green planet full of life. While on one hand, Earth was preparing for the emergence of life, on the other hand, Mars had begun to look like a graveyard. But as they say, even the smallest ray of light forced it to breathe again, and this time, the beginning of life happened because of the volcanoes present on Mars. The collisions in the past had wiped out all the water present on the surface of Mars. But even now, beneath the surface of Mars, once again, clouds began to form here and water rained down from the sky to the ground, after which those microbes began to thrive once again. But unfortunately, life could not survive here for long. Because it was too far from the sun, it became extremely cold here, and there was not enough heat left inside Mars to keep itself warm. In such conditions, this second phase of life also ended soon there. But on the other hand, everything was changing on Earth. Something that had never happened here before was happening now. Clouds were forming, rain was falling, living beings had started to be born, and plants had also begun to spread their roots. Now from here, the Earth just needed another 7 million years to give birth to the most intelligent and wise beings of this creation, who in the future would have the ability to look back at this past because of their intelligence. Yes, those beings are none other than us humans, who in the second part of this video will also shed light on the amazing theory of life being transferred from Mars to Earth. So, are you ready to join this amazing journey? Be sure to share your opinion in the comments below. Alright friends, if you liked today's video, don't forget to like it and share it with your friends. Also, if you are new to Documentary Library, make sure to subscribe and enable the bell notification so you can get videos on astronomy and space science. First of all friends, we'll see you again with another informative video. Until then, stay curious, be happy, namaskar.